Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It, and HBO Max has released the new HBO original. Not quite, we'll talk about that in a bit. The new HBO original Charm City Kings, starring Meek Mill, and I'll give you my review and thoughts right after the jump. So, real quick, if you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. So, Charm City Kings is a coming of age story about a young man named Mouse who has to fight through legacy, through the environment, through peer pressure to kind of become the man who he's supposed to be. Stars a young man named Jahi. I believe I'm saying his name right, Jahi or Jahi, who was in the Upside for a moment, but the remake of the Upside. It stars a kid named Mouse, and it also stars Meek Mill. Both do fantastic jobs. Meek Mill's really surprising. He's really captivating. He does a great job of being um, empathetic, scary, and serious without being so tongue in cheek. A lot of times rappers play to the back wall. He was very subdued, and moments when he could take time to sort of choose scenery, which a lot of people in this type of scenario do. It's a very subdued, laid back, relaxed, and much more honest performance. And I think McMill, I would like to see him do some other things because he does a really, really good job here. The film is directed well. There's some great shots. There's some. We've said this before, and I've said this a couple other films that were done with African Americans. They're getting better at lighting us and shooting everything, and because of the different tones of people of color, who are starting to figure it out, and I like that. This is shot well. There are some great bike sequences that I think really are what the bread and butter of this film is. When you're trying to get the street racing or street biking scene of Baltimore down, I think they do a really good job portraying that without it taking away from the rest of the film. Because I think the stuff when you get into the dramatic moments, especially between Mouse and Blacks, it works. When you get into the uncomfortable moments, they work. When you get to the mom talking to Mouse uh, interaction that happens, it all works, and I think it's a great build up. That said, I think this is a very solid film, but there are some issues. I believe this movie is very formulaic. Um, it it's sort of a mix of different type of films. If you take like a Bronx Tale and Karate Kid, and there's some tongue in cheek stuff about Karate Kid that happens in this movie, and like Boys in the Hood, you kind of merge them all together. This is what this film is. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is what it is. It's not nothing here is not something that we have seen done before, and sometimes even better. Probably even this year, which I'll talk about in just a second. And so the formulaic issues are compounded a little bit because some of the dialogue in this is very after school, especially. There's some stuff that just feels like, oh, guys, this is so on the nose. And it sometimes counters a lot of the grittiness that is happening in the movie. There just seems like this is like a the more you know type of thing that's going to pop up in a minute. And you'd be like, oh, really? All right. we're we're doing serious grounded stuff, but then at the same time we're doing this stuff where you feel like message should be said in the middle of the movie, and they don't quite merge up. I think these messages are important, but there should be a better blend and a better written script to sort of get there. I also think the third act of this movie rushes along really quickly, and it feels like it's forcefully trying to put people in positions because we need to get to this point of the climax. But there's some motivation changes, some character changes, and they speed along and change so rapidly and on the fly that it doesn't seem honest or earned. And we just like, okay, you guys are doing these changes, these motivational switches strictly because the script says that I have to get here to get you this poignant payoff at the end. Don't get me wrong, the payoff and the climax and the actual result or resolve of this film is a payoff and is important to see. It's just it gets a little grimy within the last act of this film of how we get there. And that's why it goes from being like, oh, this is a really good film to like this is solid. This is okay. I also think that unfortunately this film has the luxury or uh, an unfortunate luxury of coming out in the same year that I've seen Concrete Cowboys. Some people have not because it's not fully out. But I've seen Concrete Cowboys some time ago, and that film was fantastic. Stars Idris Elba and the young kid from Stranger Things, and I think that is a better done coming of age story and a better done. That one's more of about a father and son situation, but there is still some elements of what the world does to young black youth. Both films are important. I do think Concrete Cowboys is a much better done film, and this is sort of the couple of levels down from that. But I think both films should exist. I think there is a thing happening now with this black renaissance of film that one genre of film that needs to happen more is the coming of age for young black boys, black girls as well, but young black boys in particular, because I think unfortunately young black boys, once they get past the age of 9, they stop being cute, quote unquote cute to the masses. They start becoming a threat. They're no longer considered to be children, even though they still are. And so we need these type of films to exist, to say that, like, oh, these kids, these young black kids, they still are, go through these monumental changes in life, and they are just as important as the films that exist for like 8th grade or mid 90s for the non-black kids. We need to have as many versions of that as well. So I don't think one should exist without the other. They should both happen. But if you're choosing one, which you should, if you're choosing one, Concrete Cowboys for me is the way to go. And I think this one is slightly below that, with some great performances, some great directing, just a script that sort of does itself in, and especially comes a bit unraveled at the end there. All of that said, on my list of once is enough, play it again, Sam, or give me a time stone so I never have to see this again. Um, this is a tough one because I'm leaning one way, but I think just after talking about it, I'll put this in the play it again, Sam category. I think there are some great performances, and I think just seeing Meek Mill performance and Jahi playing Mouse, the two of them alone, make the faults that this movie has, and they're pretty heavy. It makes the faults that this film has work and worthwhile to go through again, because I think the chemistry and the performances that are played between them are pretty damn spectacular. That's me. Have you seen it? What did you guys think? Go ahead and leave your comments in the comments below. If you haven't, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI, or you can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name that is on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts, we're there. We also have a sister podcast called You Can't Do That Anymore that is also wherever podcasts are played. It talks about the classic films like Back to the Future or Weird Science, and we kind of break down what those films were able to get away with in the time period that they came out and what they may not be able to do nowadays. But that's it. Like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.